They thought Sonny had developed a begging habit at mealtimes. They didn't realize what was really happening. Bianca Kowalczyk Delgado had worked as a pediatric dietitian for 7 years, counseling families through allergy introductions and feeding milestones. She believed, with good reason, that few things about mealtime could catch her off guard anymore. Her own kitchen was about to prove her wrong. Her son Milo was 11 months old, recently graduated to solid foods, and thoroughly delighted with his Highchair. Sonny was a 6-year-old golden retriever who had never once begged directly at mealtimes, trained early, well-behaved, generally content to nap nearby while the family ate. That Thursday lunch started ordinarily. Milo was working through a small plate of diced fruit and crackers while Bianca prepped a snack in the kitchen. Sonny, who usually stretched out by the back door during meals, instead planted himself directly beside the Highchair, nose lifted, sniffing with unusual intensity toward Milo's tray. "Sonny, off," Bianca said, automatically, nudging him back with her knee. He resisted, just slightly, before retreating a foot and immediately creeping forward again, nose still raised, eyes locked on the plate. She recognized begging behavior. She'd seen it in other people's dogs 100 times. What she didn't immediately register was how specific it was. Not general food interest, but a fixed focus on one particular item on the tray. A single cracker, different from the ones Milo had already happily eaten. "He's getting food motivated in his old age," she told her sister Odalis, who was visiting that afternoon. Odalis laughed. "Or he smells something on it you don't." Bianca dismissed the comment lightly. She had a professional background in nutrition. If there had been a problem with the snack, she would have caught it. She'd checked labels, cross-referenced ingredients, done everything by the book since introducing new foods. She set the tray back in front of Milo and returned to the kitchen. Sonny would not stop. He inserted himself between the Highchair and the rest of the room, blocking Bianca's direct path back to check on Milo, an obstruction he had never created before. When she stepped around him, he circled back and pressed his nose almost onto the tray itself, sniffing hard, then backing off and whining low and insistent. "He's never done this," Bianca said, more to herself than to Odalis. "Maybe you should just take the cracker away," Odalis offered. Bianca hesitated. Milo was happily gnawing on it, showing no distress at all, cheerful even. There was no visible reason to intervene. She almost dismissed the whole thing as an odd new phase and let it go. That hesitation would matter later. She didn't know that yet. Instead, she decided to move Milo to the kitchen table for the rest of lunch, thinking the change of location might settle Sonny down. It didn't. Sonny followed, planted himself at Milo's feet again, and this time began pawing gently but insistently at Bianca's leg, something entirely outside his usual behavior, a request with no obvious cause. "Okay, that's genuinely strange," Odalis said, watching more closely now. Bianca finally knelt down and looked properly at the cracker in Milo's hand, turning it over. It was from a newly opened box she hadn't personally purchased, a gift bag from a neighbor's visit the day before, mixed in with the pantry items without a second thought. She read the ingredient label slowly this time, the way she should have the first time, and found it near the bottom, a tree nut derivative listed under a name that didn't immediately register as familiar. Milo had a documented tree nut sensitivity flagged in his chart from an earlier reaction months before, something she knew intimately and had simply not connected to a snack she hadn't chosen herself. She pulled the cracker from Milo's hand within seconds, checking his mouth, his skin, his breathing. No visible reaction yet. But the exposure had happened, however brief, and with his history, that mattered. She called the pediatrician's after-hours line immediately. The on-call physician, Dr. Ngozi Falkenrath, advised monitoring closely for the next 30 minutes, given his prior reaction history, and to come in immediately at the first sign of swelling or breathing changes. None came. Milo was fine, but the physician's closing comment stayed with Bianca. With a documented prior reaction like his, cross-contact exposure can escalate fast, and without much warning, catching it before a second bite is exactly the kind of margin that matters. If you stay for stories about what animals sense before we do, you're in the right place. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Bianca sat at the kitchen table that evening, running back through the afternoon. Sonny's fixed focus on one single item on the tray, not begging, a scent he recognized as wrong. The blocking at the high chair, not obstruction, an attempt to physically get between Milo and the food. The pawing at her leg, the only vocabulary he had for, "Please look." Has your dog ever done something you couldn't explain until it was the only thing that made sense? Tell us in the comments. These stories deserve to be heard. She sat down on the kitchen floor with Sonny that night, his big golden head resting against her knee. "I almost didn't listen to you," she said. He exhaled and leaned in closer, the way he always did, as if there had never been anything to forgive. Every guardian deserves to be recognized, even the ones who never asked for anything in return. If stories like this matter to you, subscribe so you never miss the next one. The next morning, Sonny took up a new position beside Milo's high chair at every single meal, watching each new food that came his way. A dog who had understood something about that kitchen long before anyone else had thought to ask.